Looking at the panel again, 200 meters. Maybe I still have enough time. Think I can still hold him. He's still 4 seconds behind. I shift one gear up, gear 27, trying to force even harder, back above 400 watts. Looking at the panel again, he's only 1 second behind. Hey everyone, Maruska here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a mission. I don't think I ever talk about how mission works here in MyWhoosh. Every once in a while, they create new challenges that we can complete. And after finishing those challenges, you can unlock bikes, jerseys, glasses, helmets, and more. It's a really cool way to encourage people to ride more and stay active inside the app. Finishing our warm-up now. In about 30 seconds, the race is going to start. As always, we are going to try hard to start. Try to stay with the front group, always using the draft whenever possible. 3 seconds to go, I start increase the power, 340 watts. The group is already starting extremely hard, 370 watts. Trying to stay inside the draft. You can see when they lower their heads and start accelerating, they just disappear. Honestly, not even the draft is enough for us to stay in the chase. And here there's not much we can do, like we already know. If I try to stay with that front group at this power level, I'm going to completely burn my legs. I have 3 laps here, 25 kilometers total. That's around 45 minutes riding hard, so there's no point forcing it. We let them go. And now we try to catch the riders behind. Maybe we can lock into someone's draft and use that to help to stay inside the race. And it doesn't take long before our Australian friend catches me. And right here, I can already tell he's riding at about my pace. I do a small pull, push the watts above 300, and now I'll try to follow him using the draft. Notice the cadence. 115 RPM, very high cadence, exactly to accelerate quickly and reconnect to his wheel. And this guy is basically going to become my companion for almost the entire race, although later on we are going to have a surprise. So stay in until the end, because this battle gets really interesting. Talking a little bit more about this mission, it's taking place in Japan, on the Edo circuit. Each lap is 8.39 kilometers, around 46 meters of elevation per lap, and overall low difficult. Since most of the circuit is flat, and after completing all 3 races of this mission, these are the rewards you can unlock. Back to the race. Here you can notice that I'm still trying to use the slingshot effect. I gain a little extra speed, and here we are on a climb. So I'm trying to push a little harder, trying to see if I can leave our friend behind, or at least force him to spend more energy, not letting him stay comfortable. But shortly after, he grabs my draft as well, and he comes back with more speed. And we are going to keep trading places like this for a very, very long time. Here I'll try sending a cooperation emote, but he simply doesn't respond. I'll try a few more times during the race, because if we work together here, maybe we can catch a few more riders ahead. But apparently, he's not interested. Looks like he prefers riding solo. And here, because of a small distraction, I almost lost his draft. So now I have to start pushing harder and harder, because he begins to opening a gap. Here comes the warning that he's moving away. So I lower my head, increase the power, and this comes at a cost. My legs start burning badly, but I still manage to recover, since our Australian friend doesn't seem to be interested in fully dropping me yet. But these small mistakes are exactly what can leave you alone in a race like this, riding 45 minutes basically by yourself. So you really need to be careful and avoid letting that happen again. Once again, even at the risk of sounding repetitive, after several minutes riding at the steady pace, me and my Australian friend finally catch a rider who clearly tried following the front group, but apparently paid the price for it. Just by the speed we passed him, you could tell he had completely cracked. His pace dropped massively, specifically considering the speed from the start. And honestly, that's exactly what I'm talking about at the beginning of the video. If I had insisted on following the front group longer, that probably would be me right there. And that's one thing I find really interesting about indoor cycling. Sometimes the secret isn't starting fast, it's knowing how to survive. Because a lot of people start above their limit trying to not lose the group. Meanwhile, me and my Australian friend keep riding at our own pace. No panic, no huge attacks, just staying consistent, using each other's draft the best we can. And since we are still on the first lap, I wanted to talk a little bit more about virtual shifting, which can be controlled using the panel on the lower right. Because this is literally the first race where I used the virtual gear, and honestly, the experience changed a lot. The biggest advantage for me is being able to ride much more by feeling, just like outdoors. If the gear feels too light, you shift it up. If the legs start burning too much, you shift it down. Everything feels like natural, without needing to constantly stare at the physical bike panel. Another thing I really like was the shifting speed. Gears change happen almost instantly, so it becomes much more easier to react to terrain change, cadence, and race pace. Here's the video I will show you exactly how it works. Tapping the video side on the screen, you increase the gear, make the pedal stroke heavier. Tapping to the left, you reduce the gear, make the bike feel lighter. And look how quickly the shift happens. All of this without touching the bike's physical panel. And that creates another advantage that I think it's really important. Less wear and tear on the equipment itself. Because anyone who rides a smart bike frequently knows, we touch that panel all the time during racing and training. So besides convenience, you also help preserve the bike much longer. And in the end, our English friend actually held on pretty well. He managed to stay with us for almost 2 complete laps. And honestly, I thought he was going to make it all the way to the finish. But at kilometer 10, the bill finally arrived. You could clearly see him losing pace for good. The gap slowly starting to increase. First a few meters, then a small separation. And before we realized, it was gone. Meanwhile, me and my Australian friend kept working together, trying to stay consistent as possible without entering the dangerous explosion zone. And during most of the race, it became that classic cycling psychological battle. Several times I tried throwing some hard attacks, especially on descents using my weight as an advantage. I pushed the power way higher, trying to wear out my Australian friend. The idea was simple: force him to spend energy responding, and maybe create a small gap. But the problem was, he did exactly the same thing to me. Sometimes was the one trying to pull it away, and power went up, the pace increased, and I immediately had to reconnect to his draft. Otherwise, I would lose contact. And it became this silent battle, nobody saying anything, but both of us clearly trying to figure it out who would crack first. And honestly, it was much harder than I expected, because eventually you reach a point where you're not riding comfortably anymore. And shortly after kilometer 19, I felt like my Australian friend decided it was finally time to say goodbye. Out of nowhere, he pushed the power above 4 watts per kilo, and that's when the final attack started. I still tried to respond, pushing above 400 watts, but my legs simply stopped responding. The lactic acid was already through the roof, heavy breathing, and that classic feeling where your brain wants to continue, but your body completely disagrees with that decision. The gap slowly started opening, little by little, and this time I knew there would be no recovery. My Australian friend was officially gone. But wait, because that wasn't the grand finale of the story. In fact, shortly after that, something happened that I can safely say was an extremely unpleasant surprise. And that's exactly when I started noticing something. Look at my fellow countryman, Nelson Gama below. He's sitting at around 0.7, maybe 1 watts per kilo. Suddenly, his watts start climbing. 1.6, 2, 3, 4, 5 watts per kilo. But when I checked the distance, there was only 3 kilometers left in the race. And I was still focused on our Australian friend. I honestly don't know how I didn't realize Nelson coming at an insanely high speed. I have no idea how he was sustaining that much power. But by the time I noticed, he was already extremely close, only a few seconds behind. And the hardest part about races like this is that during the race you don't really have the time to analyze things calmly. So when someone starts approaching like this, especially near the finish line, you automatically feel forced to respond. It's almost instinctive. So you see the guy accelerating and immediately think, I'm not letting him catch me. Even knowing it might be a terrible idea, looking at the results now after the race, it's easier to understand what actually happened. Because apparently he really can sustain 5 watts per kilo for several minutes. And honestly, that's extremely impressive, especially considering the pace he was pushing near the end. But here comes the strange part. The weird thing is that he is still classified as category 5 together with me, because looking at his performance, to me looks much more like a category 4 rider. Maybe he started racing recently, or maybe he still doesn't have enough races for system to adjust the category correctly, but clearly he still had a lot left in the tank near the finish. And honestly, after kilometer 19, I was already just trying to survive. And now, countdown begins. 50 seconds, 40 seconds, 30 seconds, 2 kilometers left, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 1.5 kilometers, and I'm giving absolutely everything, pushing back above 400 watts, trying to believe he wouldn't catch me, but I kept seeing the gap getting smaller and smaller, and honestly, I couldn't believe it. Pushing until the absolute limit, my heart rate completely maxed out, 186, 187 beats per minute, trying to ignore the lactic acid pain. Notice how my power drops from 400 down to 330 watts. I simply can't hold that power anymore. And even then, when I look at the panel on the right, Nelson is still pushing almost 5 watts per kilo. I can't believe this. There is no way I can survive another 700 meters to the finish. And he's just getting closer and closer. I'm desperate. I'm trying once again to push back above 400. I can. My heart rate is completely maxed out. 189 is already my maximum heart rate. I have absolutely nothing left. 192, 193. My body just can't take anymore. And the guy is still taking seconds out of me. 500 meters to the finish line. How am I supposed to hold this position? Looking at the panel again, 400 meters. He's only 6 seconds behind and still closing fast. 5.7, almost 6 watts per kilo. He wants this overtake no matter what, and I can't hold more than 3 watts per kilo anymore. Looking at the panel again, 200 meters. Maybe I still have enough time. Think I can still hold him. He's still 4 seconds behind. I shift one gear up, gear 27, trying to force even harder, back above 400 watts. Looking at the panel again, he's only 1 second behind, and there is 0 meters left. The finish line is right there, and he passed me. Guys, that feeling was unbelievable. It is honestly indescribable, but unfortunately the position is his. He won in the final sprint, coming all the way from behind. It is honestly incredible, truly a very strong rider. But that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching until the end. See you in the next video. Take care, everybody.